Hey everybody, welcome back for another video from Homesteading Off the Grid. Today I'm going to invite you into my weeping willow tree garden and talk to you for a little bit about weeding and how you can basically cut the amount of time you spend weeding at least by half, probably by more. But honey, can you give them a little panoramic view of all of our weeping willow trees here? No, just come back up here so you can hear me talking. I just wanted you to kind of panoramic, but you get the point, guys. So we showed you that because that's the part I've already cleared. But if you look behind me, it looks like weeds and grass because there is a lot of weeds and grass. But there's as many weeping willow trees growing from cuttings in there as there are over here. We put about 600 or 800 in this particular spot this spring. And now we're going through and liberating them from the weeds. I'm doing it by hand because, well, as you can tell, I mean, you've got to be up close and personal with this stuff to distinguish which is a weeping willow and which is a weeds. But we're using a method here called chop and drop, and we actually came by this method by from a lot of our loyal subscribers who saw us doing things the other way. And so we figured if we were wasting a lot of time and effort doing things kind of a different way for years, you may have been too, some of you watching, so we wanted to share this with you to save you some time as far as the knowledge curve goes. But some of our subscribers who also have farms and gardens and homesteads said, because we'd take the weeds out and then we'd haul them off and we'd throw them off in the wood line. And they pointed out to us, you know, if you use those weeds, and honey, make sure they're seeing this here, like this is like a mulching system. Okay, you're doing so many better things with your weeds. Number one, I won't have to come through here anymore this year and weed here. It's already the middle of August, because these weeds will keep new weeds from growing up underneath, or at least keep it to a minimum, because they're blocking the sunlight. And the sun, of course, will fry these, and they'll decompose and they'll go back into the ground, back into the soil, so they'll work as a natural fertilizer. I mean, we consider them weeds, but really it's food. I mean, the soil, the sun, the water, the nutrients from the soil worked all together to create food for new plants and of course other types of animals and whatnot. So this is going to take me probably a couple more days because I work on things as I want to when I can. I might do this for another hour, get bored, go read a book, or maybe go work on another part of the homestead. But if you look over here, you can see that Dearly came in here 2 days ago and she did the same thing. We planted some pumpkins here on the 4th of July. She went through and pulled the weeds out, and she laid them over a bed here where we had grown cucumbers this year. We enjoyed many of them. Many of them went to seed because we didn't get to them in time. But we don't have to worry about weeds growing back up in this bed where we had cucumbers, because we used the chop and drop method, but of course Dearly pulled those. She didn't chop them. And that will turn into fertilizer that will replenish the nutrients into the soil there. So when we come in here, and whether we do the double dig no-till method again like we did this spring, or maybe we'll get a tiller at some point, but either way we're going to put those nutrients back into the ground, and it's nutrients that isn't wasted. And if you've been following us for a while, you might remember we made weedless gardens here. This is cardboard around the outer edge of these little garden spots here where we've got the okra and where we had the cucumbers. This is like a third point to this method here, the chop and drop, or using your weeds to mulch. And you've probably heard of the Back to Eden gardening method. That's where you lay maybe 2 or 3 layers of something like newspaper, something decomposable like we used cardboard, and then you can put some wood chips or mulch on top, something organic, and in our case, weeds. So all of this over time will decompose, go back into the soil. Now this fall, we have some big oak trees around the border of our field that drop tons of leaves. This fall, we're going to go rake up a lot of those leaves, and we're going to bring them in here and throw them on top of this stuff. And we'll share this with you when we do. So then we'll have cardboard, we'll have weeds, we'll have oak leaves, maybe 3 inches worth of oak leaves, and then we're just going to let it winterize all winter. And of course, decomposed oak leaves is what they call black gold, high in nutrients, good for planting. And this way we are enriching the soil of this garden. We'll till that up next year, and then we don't have to worry about bringing in any sort of fertilizers because we've already done it. So now I'm going to take you for a little walk. I'm going to take the phone from my beautiful bride here, in just a second, and I'm going to show you how we actually chopped and dropped some weeds where we were weeding around some trees where we don't want to have to weed again anymore this year. And we're going to show you, this is I guess 2 to 3 weeks after the fact, so you'll see the work in progress. Okay guys, we're down here in what we call our man-made forest, which is on the front of our property, which borders the road. We planted 8 rows of trees, 7 rows of trees, 1 row of Virginia burning bushes. We staggered them. We love watching them grow, but we come down a couple times a year and we will clip around the bottom, the weeds, after I mow. Oh, there's bees. Hold on. Just stand back. Don't get any closer. So anyway, you know, I'm not afraid of the bees. I don't think they're going to bother me. But you can see here we applied the chop and drop method. I cut the weeds and we put them down at the base of the tree. So this way it's prevented other weeds from growing back, so I don't have to worry about coming down here probably for the rest of the year. Now come with me. And we did the same thing here. You can see there's no weeds coming back. And now look at this. Honey, you might have to get closer. Just a day before we did those, we were down here cutting this tree line, and we were raking and we were hauling them off to the tree line. And some of our subscribers saw that and they were just screaming, no, don't do that. Use chop and drop. Put the weeds back so you don't have to trim them again. And guys, you just saw the proof in the pudding. Here, let me see this, honey. I'm just going to give you a close-up here. I don't want my wife to get anywhere close to where there might be bees, so I took the phone from her. Hun, step back. Go over there. She's from the Philippines, as you know. My body, I've been stung millions of times, well, dozens of times. I have a natural tolerance to the bees we have here. She doesn't. If she gets stung, it could be bad news. So anyway, we didn't use chop and drop. We cut, we raked the grass out, and look at all these weeds that are already back 2 or 3 weeks later. Over here, the next day we came out and used chop and drop. And we used chop and drop right here, and there are no weeds. So we're not going to have to come down here and weed these anymore this year. And we did it all the way through the rest of the tree lines. We'll have to come down and get this one, but of course we're going to stop after. Where are you going, honey? Don't run away from me. Here, take this back so we can end the video. So anyway, you get the point. You know, and it's interesting. I'm kind of philosophical if you watch my morning rambles. Something I've learned throughout life is that things might not always work out the way we want them to, but they typically work out the way they were supposed to. All year I was lamenting about not having the time to weed my gardens and do these things. So now I've got these weeds this tall. And but had I been in there weeding those like I wanted to, I would have been out there every 2 weeks, chopping them, hauling them away, been weeding all year, wasting all this time. But as it turned out, the weeds are now the perfect height to where I can just pluck them up, use the chop and drop or pluck and drop method, put them down, use them as mulch, and I don't have to weed any more this year, and I didn't spend all that time weeding, and now my soil is going to be more nutritious and have more nutrients in it for next year's growing season anyway, and to continue to feed those weeping willows that we'll probably leave in that garden spot for maybe a couple of years before we pot them up. So we hope that you learned something from this video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe if you haven't already. If you have subscribed, hit the like button, hit the share button, help us grow. And we'll see you next time with more from Homesteading Off the Grid.